How you doing,
It's all
Ted?
good. I'm doing good, E. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for doing this.
Uh,
You looking sharp, man. Holy smokes. You don't look like an F-class shooter.
not today.
Well, you haven't been shooting F-class that long. That's why you look like that. Once you in it for about 10 years like me, you're going to look all ragged and just all beat up and out of money because that's what F-class does to you. You still can afford a tie. I used to
Yeah, there you
could.
go. Well, it's a clip on, but it works. Yeah.
Anyway, uh man, where do we start? So, Ted, tell me who you are real quick for people that may not know who you are.
Well, I would expect that's most people.
Oh, come on.
So Ted Wedell, started shooting F class. It's been a little before. It was last year, May of last year, so 2021. I
Mm-hmm.
was kind of introduced fully to the sport. I didn't finish the matches, but I had shot a couple matches prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and May was kind of where things kind of turned around and some opportunities arose, and it's been an unbelievable ride up to this point. Amazing.
Good. I'm glad you like it. So, uh, you know, I know you now. I know you pretty well, but not enough. I can tell you're super competitive. So, why don't we back it up? And I know because of your success that you've had in a year's time. I mean, it's been pretty incredible. So let's back it up. Like, where does little Ted uh, get his competitive juices from?
I blame my brother for that.
Uh huh.
So I have an older brother. He's 7 years older than I am,
Mm-hmm.
and we come from a pretty competitive family.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, as a little kid, I was always trying to compete and keep up with, you know, him and his friends. And, uh, you know, I used to blame him for beating me up all the time and picking on me and teasing on me. And he says, "Hey, look how you turned out. You turned out pretty good." So I owe him a lot
Uh huh.
because I would strive to try to keep up and was always taught to, if you're going to do anything, do it the best of your ability.
There you
And
go.
just kind of carried that forward.
So who taught you that?
I think my dad was the example of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then my brother was the same way. Whatever they did it the very best.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't have to be the best, but you just had to do your best.
Right.
And
Right.
that's carried me along.
So you I guess you know what you play sports in high school?
Yeah, so I started at a very young age playing football, Pop Warner football all the way up through high school into my collegiate years. And then I played semi pro ball, played indoor ball, and then got introduced to rugby in graduate school and played professional rugby for quite a few seasons as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, always been a team sport kind of guy
Mm-hmm.
and played at some pretty high level sports and just enjoyed the camaraderie and the lessons and the struggle of what that brings and the successes you can have with that.
I'm not, as you probably already know, I don't follow sports at all. So you're just gonna have to, you just kind of glazing over
Sure.
this. So you're probably gonna have to go more in detail. Like for example, you said you played semi-pro football. What does that mean?
So, yeah, so semi pro ball is a mixture of ex collegiate athletes, ex professional athletes still playing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not NFL, obviously, um, but, paid players played, so you get paid for stuff like that. And we travel around the country playing and played a number of those and um, played on some really great teams. And I played with some really great athletes that were, some NFL quality athletes that had played in the NFL and played CFL. And then I got introduced to the sport of rugby.
Mm-hmm.
And just so happens we had a phenomenal men's team with players from all around the world. That was their sport
Mm-hmm.
and traveled the country doing that, playing championship games. So I got to play a lot of with some phenomenal athletes, some great coaching, um, and had a lot of success in those sports as well. So I'm used to winning and
Mm-hmm.
know what it takes to win, and got to take all of that information and bring it into coaching. And I coached football for about 15 years and loved it, and got to impart some of that knowledge and skill set into the younger generation.
So, you say you were playing with like some pretty high level athletes. What did you learn from this? Like from these people, what's the mentality like?
There's a mentality of wanting to win versus knowing how to win.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big disconnect, I think, there. And as you know, and it participates in this sport as well, the mental game.
Mm-hmm.
So much of sports, especially at that level, everybody is athletic, everybody is super talented, everybody works hard. So what separates one athlete from another is the mental game. Um, you know, some people say the separation's in the preparation, and I think Russell Wilson says that, and there's a lot of truth to that. So it's the mental game that it comes down to making the right decisions at the right time, and your preparedness. Um, you know, it's perfect practice makes perfect play. So putting the time and effort into that from the physical side to the mental side and combining those two is what I think makes us,
I see.
at least in athletics.
So, you know, that makes a lot of sense, right? And I know F class is my sport. I get to lay
Yeah.
there and pull a trigger. Even then, the trigger is as light as I can make it. So,
Yeah.
uh, most people wouldn't think that's too stressful, but you're experienced kind of high level, contact sports. Rugby, football, played at the
Yeah.
very highest levels. And how would you compare that to F class?
Well, I can tell you after nationals, I was exhausted mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is amazing how much stress there is in that 20 minutes of time.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're shooting pair fire or you're shooting string fire, you got to be on point because you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, but it just seems like, you know, every shot is so critical. Every point is so important. Every X is so important. You can't just, I'll throw one or two away. You got to be on point in making that call. And, you know, whether they're educated guesses, you know, there's a lot that goes in there, and it's the decision. I think, Todd Hendricks says it's best. It's knowing when to make the right decision. And if you can make the right decision most of the time, then you're going to do very well.
Right. So I agree with you. It's I talked about my light trigger, and sometimes doesn't that 1 ounce trigger sometimes it feels like it's 8 pounds just because you're so stressed, and you want to pull it but you're not certain, you know what I mean?
Not certain. Yeah.
And that trigger just feels so heavy. I mean, I've experienced that, and I'm literally remember times where I'm like, come on, just go, because I feel like I'm really pulling on the trigger, but I'm like, I'm not shaking, but it's just so stressed out, and so matches you get up off the line and you're just beat, you
Yeah.
know.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So, you played on a championship team. What does that mean?
Yeah. I've won a few championships throughout my career. So I've been very fortunate, very blessed. Almost every team I've played on has either been playoff bound or championship.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, there's a lot that goes into it. It's that whole, I relate to that to coaching is in the sense of, like I said, wanting to win,
Mm-hmm.
preparing to win, and then knowing how to win. how to close it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you have to learn. And it's not just something that just, I think, happens naturally. It's something you have to learn and experience, if that
And
makes any sense. It's hard to
it
explain.
does.
It's
It
a
does.
mental.
It's some people. It's not that they're born with it. It's they have it just based on how how they grew up. Right. If they grew up
Sure.
always making decisions, then they're gonna be better at it. You know.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
uh, if you're not purposely thinking about your mental game, uh, you're not gonna grow as much as you could. You know.
Sure. I agree with that.
Because you're not going to seek out that knowledge, and you're not going to purposely put it into effect. When you're laying, like, me, I'm always trying different things, but uh, that mental game is something. Heck, I interviewed Lanny Basham on this
Right.
on this channel, and because I believe in the mental game. It's something that you know, uh, you know, I remember when I started F class, I used to have one or two bad shots, and that's it. My whole match was done because I would get mad and I would just throw the whole thing away. And guess what? Now I had an excuse, and you just can't do that. Like you
Right.
said, you can't give a single point away.
Yeah. I think, part of that I've learned too in sports is, get beat for a touchdown on one play. You got to be able to wipe that and come right back the next series and be ready to go, and can't be dwelling on what just happened. And I think that helps, because there'll be some times when I get done shooting and the guy is like, "Oh, you got 3 nines," and I'm like, "I don't even remember the nine." You know, you sure about that? Because sometimes you let that just roll, and can't focus on the last one. Focus on the next one.
Right, that's a very good place to be actually when you don't know how many shots you've lost. Because you're focused on the win, you focus on execution, you focus on everything except your score. The score doesn't at least I don't believe that your score reflects your performance. Um, because I mean, yes, that's how we measure performance, but uh,
Right.
you sometimes you're like, man, I shot like crap, and I can't believe I shot that clean, or my gun's not shooting that good, or whatever. And then sometimes you just feel like you shot your ass off, and then you just kept catching all these leaker nines. You know what I mean? And it
Hmm.
just wasn't working out. But like I said, I think uh, performance and score should be dealt with separately, and which is what you're doing. You're focusing on the performance. You're ignoring the score. The score is gonna be what it's gonna be,
Right.
and I think
Yeah.
that's a good. I was squatted up with somebody at some match, and he dropped like 12 points. Okay, and it's okay. I mean, I've dropped more than that. Um, but he dropped like 12 points, and he gets off the gun and he goes, How many did I drop? 12. And I'm like, how did you know that? And he's like, well, I
Yeah.
keep count. I'm like, you shouldn't keep count. Like, that's not something you need. I mean, 12 is a lot to keep track of, you know? But he was so focused on score that he knew exactly how many dropped. And I'm like, no, no, no. You need to be focusing on the win. You need to be focusing on Mirage, execution, everything except score, which
Right.
is sounds like you're already doing pretty good. But I think that goes back to you're having a strong mental game.
Yeah.
So in those type of sports that you played, how do they is the mental game a big topic? Something that you guys actively work on?
You know, Not necessarily so much, in youth and high school, but once you get, in the upper echelon, things started becoming more apparent, to where we had that discussion. You know, some coaches talk about visualization, visualizing your success, visualizing what you're going to do. For me, it was film study, a lot of film study,
Mm-hmm.
um, trying to anticipate whether it's formation based, down and distance based tendencies, all of that kind of stuff going into the preparedness. So when I was in the moment, I wasn't having to think, just react. And I think that's what really helped me in my game
Mm-hmm.
was the preparation, the homework to be done. So when it came time to perform, I wasn't thinking, I was just playing or reacting to the situation at hand.
Yeah.
So
Well, what about coaching? Like, I mean, you've been coached and have coached. What makes a good coach, in your opinion?
someone who's a good teacher. So there are a lot of people out there who have played sports and then turn on and be coaching sports, and they could have been a great athlete, great player, but are not a good coach. Um, it's identifying strengths and weaknesses in your players. For me, it was identifying how those players learned. Some players need to be yelled at, you know, and, you know, kick their butt a few times. Some players don't respond to yelling and screaming. They need, affirmation, so really kind of being able to address into players individually
Mm-hmm.
versus just group. I had coaches that treated everybody the same. They yelled at everybody and grabbed your face mask and yanked you around, and not everybody responded well to that. Um, you want to develop relationships with those players so they want to play for you and they want to win for you. They want to make you proud, um, and that's relational. So they got to be that, and then they got to be able to know how to teach and break something down that's complicated into easy, basic steps
Mm-hmm.
that anyone can learn. So you can create that foundation. So then you can build and make things more complicated. Keep it simple to start, right? And I think that's what, for me, that's what I learned well from, and so that's what I tried to emulate. So just copy what I thought worked great for me and take pieces from different coaches and things that I like from each one and try to put together and to make it my own style, you know, and to keep it fun.
Fun.
Sports and the game,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you got to have fun in it. So
So you leave high school and then you went to college, and then that's when you started playing kind of high level.
high level sports, yeah.
What how long did you do that for?
Up to, well, let's see. I played professionally at some level up to 26. I got sick at 26 and I was down for probably 3 years after that. And then I had the opportunity to go back and play at a pretty high level at my late, like 29 to 32.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Played football. And then,
At the same level.
yeah. And
So
then
so
so
what
I
so
was,
you said you got sick. What does that mean? Like 3 years got sick?
yeah. So at age 26, I got diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer. And so had a major surgery, went through like 15 months of chemotherapy, radiation treatments for a year. Um, I went from like 205 pounds to 130 pounds.
Mm.
Um, and then had all kinds of health issues at that point. And it took me, 3 years. And fortunately, by the grace of God, I was able to overcome that and beat that. Um, and an opportunity came locally here in town to play for a semi-pro team and tried out for it and was fortunate to make the team and got to play another couple championships. And
That,
then,
that's some kick ass shit right there. Like, I
so
mean,
very blessed.
dude, that that that's some kick ass shit right there. Like that would take out. I don't know. Luckily, I've never been placed in that situation, but uh, man, for you to just I like how you just brush up. Yeah, I got sick, and then I came back and I kicked some more ass. Like, like, holy shit, that's the major kind of sick. You know what I mean? And then you just kicked its ass and got back on the saddle, huh?
Yeah, it definitely changed my perspective in my whole life at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I was very driven to be a successful doctor. I wanted to be the best, like, best ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that really put my priorities in check
Mm-hmm.
and changed my whole scheme of where my life was going at that point. My priorities were off at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So it was something that was used to refine my character, develop a lot more perseverance, um, to be very thankful for the privileges and the things I had at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So, I grew up a lot during that time, and I had a great support system with my wife and family and whatnot to get me through that. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just, right, an opportunity to play again, and it was an amazing experience to continue to play at a high level, being one of the oldest guys on the team,
Mm-hmm.
and got to do that, and then had aspirations to continue it, but unfortunately was blew my ACL out again playing basketball, and at that point, that high level kind of subsided, and I couldn't kite. I was too old at that point at what 33, 34
Mm-hmm.
to compete with 20 somethings.
Mm-hmm.
But had a good run, so got into coaching at that point
Okay.
and decided to go that route.
What were you coaching? Like what grade levels? Or
So how I got into coaching, I was actually playing at the time,
mm-hmm.
and my son was like 7, and I was attending his football game, of course, and I was complaining to my wife about the crappy play calling
Oh, you do
coaching.
that too, huh?
Oh
See,
yeah,
I'm not. I don't even know sports, but I still complain about the coaching. But anyway, go ahead.
yeah. So, well, she says, "Well, stop complaining about it once you do something about it."
Oh no.
So I started I started coaching youth football because that's how I got into it,
Uh-huh.
and it grew from there to high school ball, and I coached high school ball for I don't know 12 seasons or so, and worked my way up to pretty high level there, and enjoyed every minute of that, and loved working with high school kids.
So you can't just take anything and just have fun with it. You just gotta go balls to the walls, huh?
Yeah, but it was football is a passion of mine.
Uh-huh. Well,
If I
it's
could have played, if I could have played professionally, that would have been my dream,
mm-hmm.
and there were just different plans laid out for me, and that wasn't it. So I lived vicariously through the youth.
Yeah, it's funny how you're just sitting on the bleachers complaining, and the next thing you know, you spent 15 years coaching.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
so you've talked about skydiving as well. How
yeah.
what does that fit in?
uh, well, there's a group of guys that I was hanging out with that would get together once a week,
Uh-huh.
and believe it or not, we'd play video games, eat steak dinner, and just have good friendship, and that kind of evolved to doing something outside of that one time, and someone suggested that, hey, why don't we do skydiving, where it's a tandem skydive thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I got together and did this tandem skydive, where you're strapped to somebody and you jump out of a plane, and I thought that was pretty amazing. And they happened to offer skydiving lessons,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, yeah, I'm in. So so yeah, so that was amazing. It's a crazy experience if you've ever had a chance to do it. There's nothing like jumping out of a perfectly good plane. Hard part is just getting out of the plane, but
Mm-hmm.
once you're out of the plane, you're safe. But
Really?
it's yeah,
you just jump and the falling just happens, right?
yeah. But it's I've always kind of been unfortunately a thrill seeker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love stuff like that, adrenaline rush, and as close as I could get, I guess.
And that's why he shoots F class now.
Well,
So,
there's a rush to that too, right?
so, all right. So you guys are sitting around playing video games, probably drinking beer, having a steak, and then somebody just said, "Hey, we should go skydiving."
Exactly. That's how it happened.
And next thing, how long did you sky? I kind of, you've told me one or two stories, but based
Sure.
on what you told me already, I kind of have a feeling. So, how long did you skydive for?
So I got about 38, I think 38 solo jumps in my first year.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, then my health insurance found out I was skydiving.
the
My life, I think it was my life insurance actually.
uh
And it was like either you're going to have life insurance or not, because skydiving is not allowed.
uh
That decision, along with the weather that we have here in Washington, uh, it's very hard to keep your license current.
mm-hmm.
You have to have a jump every 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And with work and the weather, with cloudy, you don't jump when it's, overcast. Well, good. We live in Washington. It's freaking rains 300 days a year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could be there all day to try to jump. And I just ran out of time and effort in doing that.
So you did it for
So
about a year.
yeah, but
Okay.
boy, that was phenomenal.
tell tell me the bouncer story.
Oh man, yeah. So I was training with another couple, and older couple, and we were doing testing at jumping out at 5,500 feet and pulling at 3,500 feet. So kind of a just up and drop. And I jumped out and landed. My buddy jumped out, landed. The wife jumped out, and we were watching her jump, and you could see her jump out of the plane. And you're supposed to basically flatten out and pull. And apparently, that when she went to reach to pull, she couldn't reach her ripcord and went into basically a flat spin to where the spin was strong enough to where she couldn't reach her pull cord. And at that time, since we were students, we had a reserve chute that was an automatic reserve that would deploy at 700 feet based on your velocity.
Mm-hmm.
And they told us that if it deploys, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to survive. You're just going to hit the ground a lot, slower.
It's gonna hurt longer
Yeah. So
before you die.
it's exactly. So long story
Sorry, I don't mean
short,
to make fun of
so, no,
that.
long story short, the coach that was below us watching, he turned around to look away, and the husband and I sat and watched, and she fell, and then I guess she finally reached her ripcord and went to pull it, and soon she went to pull it, her reserve went off. So she knew she was at 700 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Both chutes got tangled, and
Oh
she
crap!
bounced off the ground,
She what?
got bounced off the ground, and got up and walked away. No injuries. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was the last time the couple jumped,
Did you jump after that?
and yeah, I continued to get my license after that. Yes.
So, holy shit, dude. So you stand there. Well, you jump out of a plane, and
Yeah.
then you standing there, and apparently sounds like you knew her pretty well
Yeah. They're very good friends of mine
to this day.
to this day.
Wow. so, so that is incredible. Like for one, getting me to jump is gonna be just a hassle to begin with. But then if I see anything like that, I'm done. Holy crap,
Yeah.
that is nuts.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. She should have all rights been dead for sure. But she got up, and walked away. No injuries.
That's
She
man.
came she came and got adjusted the next day.
Is that where you get? You're. They have ambulance chasers, and then they have, skydiving,
Yeah.
plane chasers. Is that what you do?
There you go. That's right. Throw a few business cards out.
I'm glad you lived. Here's a business card. Come see me tomorrow.
Yeah. Exactly.
Holy crap, that's nuts, man. Anything else crazy? Did you see? I mean, hard to top that one.
Uh from that experience, there were a lot of crazy things happening in getting that license. It was jumping out when there's other planes when I shouldn't have. following the instructor's advice, stuff like that. Climbing out, we had one where the instructor, we were in a Cessna,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, I was looking out the door from my spot to jump, and I was about to jump, and then she's like, "No, I want you to climb out on the wing." I'm
Wait,
like, "Huh, what?"
hang on.
So yeah,
Okay, all right, go ahead. Keep going.
yeah. So there's a the way the plane works
So
is
at
there's a
that
little
point, you
step.
go, no, I'm not. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna jump out, right?
No, I'm like, okay,
I thought you
I'm
never
game.
ask.
Yeah. Well, I got a shoot on.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah. So you grab onto the strut, and then you just hand in hand all the way out to the edge of the wing.
Uh
And
huh.
I'm just hanging off the edge of the wing. And what was cool was my buddy was in the plane. He was next, and he was looking out the window, and his eyes were like that big. He was like, I kind of gave him a sheepish smile, and off I went. So that was cool.
Wow. It'd be cool to have a
Yeah,
picture of that.
yeah, that would have been cool.
Let's just go do it
But
again.
what's amazing is watching somebody jump out of a plane
Mm-hmm.
in the plane is how fast they're going. It's unbelievable. They're
Yeah.
just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine. How fast does the plane go?
About 150, I think.
Yeah. That's it?
Yeah. Cessna.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, but I mean, because you have the 150 plus the falling.
Yeah.
It happens
Yeah.
quick.
It happens quick. Yeah.
So,
Well, they say, if you're free falling from 15,000 feet and you're flattened out, so you're not, trying to accelerate, you're just free falling. It's about a little less than a minute and you fell over 12,000 feet. So it's moving. You got quite a more time than you think, but if you're jumping out at 5,500 feet, by the time you flatten out, you're at 3,500 feet. You got to pull, so it's
yeah.
quick.
So when you flatten out, you just kind of go like that. So
Yeah.
so what happened? Like you jump out, and what do you do? Like what's the first thing you do?
So you're typically you're going to go into a tumble. So depending how you come out of the plane, if you're jumping out or letting go, you're going to flip. You're going to tumble like a somersault. And as soon as you come out of the somersault, as soon as you go into fanning out, your body, it stabilizes. You just upright. So you can fan out upside down, or you can fan out facing the ground, and you'll just balance. And then using your hands and your feet to control direction,
Mm-hmm.
forward, backwards, and side to side.
Wow.
So, yeah, spatial awareness becomes important at that point, right? Because it's hard to, when you first jump out and you're falling, you can tell when you turn left or right easy enough by looking at the horizon, but it's hard to know if you're going forward or backwards
Oh,
because you don't have any relative mark. So, and you could be going forward or backwards based on your position and you don't know it. And
yeah.
that just comes, yeah, and that just comes with experience and time.
So you guys get on a plane and they get up there and they're like, okay, jump, and then you have I assume you have a designated area where you're supposed to land.
Yes. And so you're basically going to wait till you're somewhat near or over the area,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'll jump. And then depending when you're popping your chute, you're going to fly to the area. And then you're keeping mind that you're going to try to land into the wind. So the area that we had wind flags. So you knew which direction the wind was blowing. So you would land into the wind. So you would make that when circled early enough so you could come into the wind.
Yeah,
So
so it can slow you down and kind of
yeah.
keep you afloat, right?
Yep.
Otherwise, it just.
Yeah. Exactly.
I see. Well, isn't that how planes take off and land too? Like into the
As far
wind?
as I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So you did that. When did you have time to become a doctor?
Now that was after college, right? So
Well, you were playing
uh,
football and doing all these other crazy things.
yeah, you go to school and you play at the same time, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. I imagine. So, all right. So you've done all these things, which obviously have made you pretty headstrong. Uh, how did you get into shooting? Because football from shooting seems like a
Sure.
stretch.
Uh, that's a great story. um, I have to thank my brother-in-law Barry and his boss Mike Sawa. At the time, my brother-in-law lived across the other side of the state from me, about 4 hours away,
Mm-hmm.
and I had pistols growing up, shotgun growing up, clinked a little bit here and there, but that was about it. Um, didn't shoot hardly anything during college years and because playing sports and whatnot. And then a couple years ago, I decided to buy an AR-15, so I bought one of those. And my brother-in-law told me to come over and he'd help me set it up. And if I didn't know anything about guns, taking it apart, putting a scope on it, all that kind of stuff. So he brought us over to this little range they had over by his house at a 400-yard range outdoor. And I brought my AR-15 over there and was pinking around. All of a sudden, he pulls out this rifle with a big old scope on it and a bipod and everything. And I'm like, what's that? He's like, oh, it's this precision rifle. I, I bought it from my boss. He shoots long range competitions with it. And I'm like, what's that? What does that mean? And so he had it sitting there on a bench and there was a gong out at 400 yards. And he's like, you want to shoot it? I'm like, well, yeah. So I got behind it and, shot it. Bang, ding, bang, ding. I'm like, that was awesome. Because I never shot more than 25 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was the greatest thing in the world. And he's like, yeah, I'm shooting this, competition. I'm like, what do you mean competition? He's like, yeah, we're shooting 1,000 yards. I'm like, 1,000 yards? How do you even see the target? Well, I got a big scope. And I'm like, well, tell me more about that. And so he kind of was telling me a little bit of stuff. And I'm like, huh. So I went home and got on internet. And I'm like, okay. So I started looking up, long range shooting. And I kind of came across, PRS stuff. And I came across, 1,000-yard prone shooting. And so I'm like, huh, requires a rifle, obviously. And I didn't have a rifle. And so what do I get? What if, so the whole thought was get something. What if I don't like it?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what if it's boring or so I bought a chassis rifle, I guess, 6.5 Creedmoor, nice gun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was lightweight, it's like 7 pounds, carbon fiber barrel. I said, well, if I don't like it, then I could use it hunting because my brother-in-law is a big hunter
Mm-hmm.
and we plan to go hunting with it. And I bought an Atlas bipod, bought a scope, and we took it to Rattlesnake because that's where he was living over in Tri-Cities.
Mm-hmm.
And took it there first on a match day on a Saturday. Had some Hornady 6.5 Creedmoor ammo
Mm-hmm.
and laid down and saw, put my scope out there and had a phone with me trying to figure out how many mils. I had a, mill scope
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, well, see if I can hit the target. And I think I shot, and I think my first shot was a 9. I think my brother-in-law took a picture of it.
Nice.
And I got up and I said, that was the best. I said, that was the greatest thing ever. I just shot 1,000 yards and I hit a target. I could not believe it. It was one of the most exhilarating experiences I had.
Mm-hmm.
And that was amazing. And then I sucked really bad after that.
Yeah, you should always quit after the first shot. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
it's been good, but
So
so
what
so
happened
so
was,
so you say you sucked after that. So okay, so you shoot your first shot. Take me through your first match because it's the big one in my opinion, right? It's the one that either
sure,
is gonna hook you or is gonna. And
sure. I mean, I had my brother-in-law there. His boss was there. A bunch of local guys were there. I didn't know anything about wind,
mm-hmm.
anything. It was just, I'm just aiming at a target and hope to hit it. And I just thought the experience of shooting something that's 6/10 of a mile away that I can't see with my eye, the thought of hitting that was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's unbelievable to me. I never thought in a million years I could do that. And, I finished, I didn't shoot Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
so it was just Saturday I shoot. I don't even remember what I scored. I don't know. It wasn't any good,
Right.
but it was amazing. And then I came back the next month
Mm-hmm.
and I shot on a Saturday.
Well, before you go back, okay, so you go home, right? Now you shot your first match. Like, what's the thought
Yeah.
process? Is this like, hey, I think I'd give this a try, or, oh shit, I need more of that?
It was that was a lot of fun because see it at the point in my life at that time, um, I'd been sick prior to that as well, again, unfortunately. And as you found out, I'm pretty competitive and I needed something
Mm-hmm.
to put that energy, that physicality into something. And I didn't know if I was going to like it,
Mm-hmm.
but what's not to like about laying down in the dirt and shooting guns
Right. At really long distances.
at a really long distance? And I enjoyed getting to do something with my brother-in-law. I got to know his boss, his friend,
Mm-hmm.
and great guy, Mike Sawa, helping me out there, and it was just there was that camaraderie again. Yeah, I wanted to be good at it, but it wasn't like my focus had changed from having to be the very best, focus driven to enjoy the moment, enjoy the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an experience that obviously put me on a path that has changed my life at to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I didn't know, I don't even remember what my score was. I know it wasn't any good. I hit the target a bunch of times, but nothing to shake a stick at.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, there were a couple guys there that had real guns and front rest and rear bags. And I kind of looked at that and went, oh, that's kind of a system gun. Here I am, I'm shooting off a Atlas bipod and
I'm the real
shoulder,
man here.
yeah, yeah, I'm shouldering it, by myself. And, you know,
Anybody can shoot those guns over there.
oh yeah, you don't have to do it. All you got to do is pull the trigger, right? Well, that's kind of what I thought. Here I am, but I really enjoyed just getting to shoot a rifle
Mm-hmm.
because it was all new experience for me, and being a little bit competitive with my brother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came back the next month and only shot on a Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
and I did that twice. Um, go home on a Sunday, so I never finished the match.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just awesome. And then it was May of last year. Um, and that third match, I had gone in between, and I said, okay, I need to do something different because my rifle bounces everywhere. It came in at like 8 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
and so I got a bigger bipod, so something to make it level, and then I bought a rear bag, so basically like an FTR setup
Mm-hmm.
with the Creedmoor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be a little bit more competitive, so maybe I can return to target a lot easier because I was bouncing onto other targets,
Mm-hmm.
picking it up and moving it around. I'm like, this is hard, you
Yeah.
know, you know.
I can imagine.
And so, I went and I noticed that when I was going to these matches, there was the local guys, and then there were these other guys. And the other guys all shot these beautiful rifles and these setups, but there was no communication between the two groups, if you know what I mean. Not that they were cliquish, but it's just, all those guys knew each other and then all the locals knew themselves and there was never anybody bridging the gap.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, that doesn't seem right. So I picked a guy to go talk to about his gun. I figured what a better way to bridge the gap and have somebody tell me about their setup.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked this guy. He was a goofy looking dude, big head. You
He's
know
so
what I'm talking about.
stupid. So
So stupid.
stupid.
Love you, Jeremy. Yeah, he's my brother from the mother. There you go. But
So
I
this
asked him,
is Jeremy Smith.
Jeremy Smith, yes. So
Okay.
he had a beautiful rifle sitting there. So I was just asking questions. Hey, tell me a little about your rifle. What kind of wood is that? What setup? You know, if just making small talk. Hey, if I was wanting to, I had no intention, but if I was wanting to build a rifle, you know, what does it take, kind of thing. And so he was very gracious and took a few minutes after the match and was going over his stuff. And I'm like, wow, that is just a beautiful rifle and just unbelievable. And then he looks at me and goes, I've got 5 rounds left. Why don't you lay down there and shoot it? And I kind of looked around like, you talking to me? Because I'm like, you got a Rolls Royce, you know, hot rod here, and
Hmm.
you're going to have some strange relay behind your gun. But he let me get behind it. And I remember, I'll never forget it. I laid down, I looked through the scope, and I popped up real quick and I go, Barry, there's numbers on the target and there's rings. I can see X. I thought it was just going to be a black blob like I see out there. I couldn't believe we could actually
there's
see the
numbers on
numbers.
the target.
It was unbelievable. And I'm like, wow, there's an X in the middle. So I was just amazed, you know. And so, you know, honestly, I shot those 5 shots and I don't even remember how I did. I think, you know, the trigger surprised me. Um, it was obviously I wasn't used to that, but I shot the 5 shots and it was amazing how smooth it seemed to operate.
Hmm.
And then with the joystick and all that stuff, I was just like, wow. So I thanked him profusely. You know,
Hmm.
I really didn't even know his name. And that was a Saturday, and we left, my brother-in-law and Mike, and we went to get breakfast. And about 45 minutes later, I get this phone call on my cell phone, and number I don't recognize, and I don't know why, but I answered it, and it's that guy,
Hmm.
Jeremy.
Hmm.
And I'm like, how did he get my number? You know, because he doesn't
Oh,
know me
he's a
from Adam,
creep.
but
He's a creep, man. Just
I think D gave it to him. I don't know, but
D knows everybody's number.
but yeah, he said he asked me, hey, if I was shooting on Sunday. I said no, uh, I don't have enough ammo for my gun. I usually go home. He's like, hey, I brought an extra rifle, extra ammo. Why don't you come back on Sunday and shoot it?
Wow.
And I paused for a moment. I was just blown away. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Um, are you sure? You know, and he's like, yeah, it needs to be shot. I want you to come and shoot it. And I was just like, okay. And I just remember I hung up and I had to call my wife, said, I'm not coming home. Stayed an extra day because I just got this
I
opportunity.
met somebody.
Yeah,
I met this really big guy, and I'm not coming
yeah.
home.
So you know, there was this opportunity. I'm like, wow. And my brother-in-law Barry he was like, wow. So let's do it. So we went there the next day on Sunday, and he had it all set up on a rest and everything. And says, I think there were 2 relays to go.
Hmm.
And he's like, all I want you to do is lay down and get used to being behind the rifle and pull the trigger. Pardon me. And so I did that for 20 shots.
Hmm.
You know, and he says, don't worry about wind, anything, just pull the trigger. So I did that, and I don't remember how I did,
Hmm.
but it was cool. And he's like, okay, next relay came, and he's like, okay, now you're on your own. And I'm like, he's like, well, what I typically do is maybe watch those 3 flags over there, and then you know, basically chase the spotter,
Hmm.
right? And so I laid down and tried to make calls, and I shot the best score I ever shot. I shot a 196 there,
Wow.
and
That's
turns
actually a
out
really good score.
I won the match or won the relay.
Wow.
I scored the relay, and there was it was just like the Red Sea parted. People were like hooting and hollering and coming down and congratulating me. I'm like, I don't know. I was just pulling the trigger. I thought, you know, and you know, turns out you know Jeremy was there, John Masick was there, David Christian was there, some guy named Todd Hendricks was there, and some other guys were there. And I didn't even know who any of these people were.
Uh-huh.
You know, I had to Google them all
Uh-huh.
later. And this guy comes down and goes, hey, so that was pretty good shooting. Says, my name's Todd, and I run the match out in Machias. I didn't even know where that was.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 500-yard match. We have one like in 2 weeks or next week. Says, why don't you come and I'll bring a rifle and bring ammo and you can shoot it. And I'm like, I don't even know you, who you are.
You're like, this is an awesome sport. Everybody just hands you fancy
Yeah, I
stuff.
know, right? So I had to go home and Google the guy, and I was just blown away that that was an offer. So I'm like, okay. And
So
it
what did you
was,
find when you Googled Todd Hendricks?
well, it turns out he's a pretty good shooter.
He does all right.
Yeah. So, but it was amazing. I mean, just the excitement of, most of the people there were genuine,
Mm-hmm.
for something that I did. I had nothing to, know anything I'm doing about. And it was an amazing experience and it was an amazing opportunity. And it has just gotten even better from that point. Um, I was, it's hard to explain. My brother-in-law is like, well, why did that happen? And, I really think for me, to be honest, it's a total God thing for me. I mean, I have very strong faith in that. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe that it was the right timing. I needed something like that for my life to want to still, I guess I'm fighting for my life, so I needed something to focus on and to sink my competitive juices into. Because, as you know, at least for me, when I'm shooting, I'm not thinking about work. I'm not thinking about my health. I'm not thinking about anything, but I'm in the moment. I'm in the zone, and I needed that to get back into it.
So you briefly said you got sick again. What does that mean?
So a couple years ago, uh, I got sick with a cold and actually got the flu, which I never get,
Mm-hmm.
and got chest infection, the whole 9 yards, and went on antibiotics and all that. Well, I developed a pretty good cough with that, and it kind of never went away. And I was playing basketball in a basketball league at the time, and at that point, I was in pretty dang good shape, physically and running and all that. And I remember going up and down the court the first game, and I was like, I got to sub out. I'm sucking air. And then it dawned on me, it's like, man, I'm 50. Did, what happened? Did I just get old? And then I realized, no, that can't be. Well, then I started having issues at work where patients were like, man, you're wheezing a lot while you're adjusting patients. And so I figured, I got bronchitis, pneumonia, or something like that. So I went to the doc and went on, Z packs and inhalers and all that stuff. And it didn't go away after a month. So I went back and he's like, well, why don't we just take a chest x-ray? Because we think you probably got walking pneumonia.
Mm-hmm.
So took the chest x-ray and he goes, well, good news is you don't have walking pneumonia. Bad news is you have about a softball sized tumor in your left lung.
Mm-hmm.
It's up against your aorta. I'm like, oh, well, that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
And so immediately went in for a biopsy and came back that it was colon cancer. And I'm like, well, how's that even possible? Because I had my colon taken out when I was 26. So how does colon cancer come back? Hold on here, Eric.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let me just
Yeah.
all right. So I found they, did a biopsy and it turns out it was colon cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, well, how'd that happen since, I had that taken out when I was 26, but somehow it decided to come back and it came back with a vengeance and immediately went in for consultation with a thoracic surgeon. And he's like, it's up against your aorta and we're probably going to take your lung out. And he says, tell me kind of, what's your lifestyle like? And I explained it to him that, play sports and I hike and I run. I do all these activities and very physical kind of guy. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, well, let's just be frank. He says, that's going to change. Your life's never going to be the same. This is going to be the hardest thing you've ever gone through. You're not going to be able to do those activities anymore. You're going to have to really change everything. And I'm just listening to that. And usually when someone says you can't do something, I want to prove them wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, well, I'd say bring it then. Well, I went in like 2 days later, and it turns out that that tumor had actually grown over my aorta. So they had to resection part of my aorta and then put it back. And then they just removed the whole lung, took it out. And we decided radiation wasn't appropriate because they didn't want to radiate my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So we just went on chemotherapy right after that again. And about 3 months into chemo, I was getting scans every 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
and it decided to show up and spread. So it spread to my neck and some lymph nodes, and then it spread into my other lung, and then it spread into my liver. And I had spots in my kidneys, I had spots in my brain. And so we decided to double the dose of chemo, and they thought I could handle it physically, you know. So I was going in 3 times a week for chemotherapy and trying to work at the same time. I had just bought my practice, 5 months earlier, and all my eggs were that. And I just canceled my health insurance prior to that because I was healthy, and so this it just all hit at one time. And to be honest, I shouldn't have survived that, and I've been able to manage it. I was on chemo for about 15 more months,
Mm-hmm.
and I just got sick of it. It wasn't curing anything at that point. I guess it, had slowed things down, the
Mm-hmm.
spread. Uh, but neuropathy was permanent. So I got permanent neuropathy in my hands and my feet, my lower legs. So affects how I walk. you know, can't run anymore. Um, my whole organ system has changed in the sense of, when you take a lung out, that space is going to fill in with something. It usually fills in with fluid, but everything has now shifted my heart and everything. So my heart sits midline to right, and my aorta is now compressed. So when I bend over or lay on my stomach, it cuts off blood flow, it cuts off oxygen. And so I can't breathe. I pass out. So I'm now on oxygen. So, uh, I got about 15% capacity in my right lung. And so that's it, you know. So we're was on treatment for about a year and a half, and you know had to get back to work, and so I came off chemo for a while, and I don't know how long I was off of it, probably 8 months, I guess, maybe, and maybe longer. I don't know. And then got another scan, and some new spots showed up in my liver, and the other spot showed up in my lung, and it was like, well, what do you do now? So we had to try to make a tough decision. If you know chemo kills people, I think a lot of people die from the chemotherapy than the cancer itself. And I need to be able to work and still
Mm-hmm.
provide for my family. And I knew I couldn't go on the same regimen I was last time. So we're, I guess we're kind of on call maintenance dose. So I get about 2/3 of what I used to get dose wise,
Mm-hmm.
and get that every Tuesday. Um, I could still, I'm still able to somewhat write and button my shirt with my hands. So that's kind of if it gets any worse, then I'll stop. So I got to be able to use my hands for my
Mm-hmm.
work. So, but right now, I go in next month for another scan and make another decision if we continue with the treatment or roll the dice and not. So it's, one of those decisions. So that's kind of where my life was at, and it was just it kind of it was just a slow decline, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. And then the shooting thing came in, and it just it just changed my outlook and something for me to focus on mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wrote down, kind of went through, started writing down, one match a month. I want to do this, do that, and so I look forward to the next match.
Mm-hmm.
And what do I need to do to get to the next match physically?
Mm-hmm.
And it's been amazing. Um, I've gotten to know some amazing people, you included.
Thank you.
Great shooters, but even better people. And these group of guys have rallied around me and helped me in more ways than they know, not only with shooting, but just, the time, the relationships, that's what is most important to me is the friendships and the relationships that I have. Um, Shooting's a great sport, and yeah, I want to do well and I want to win. And I'm very competitive. The drive's there, but I had more fun hanging out with the team, playing cornhole, laughing, hearing stories, making fun of certain people and getting poked fun at.
It's part of it,
I mean,
right?
you know, it's that's what to me is so important, and it's the experience that I'm having, and it's been an incredible, incredible ride, and I've been very privileged to, you know, have a mentor. Todd Hendricks has come alongside and has been mentoring me, and I've watched almost all of the interviews, and to see the foundation of the sport and those people that you've interviewed that were part of that, like Jim Murphy and Larry Tate, and then you got the guys after that like Todd and Jay, and then people who have influenced the sport like John and your PRS guys. I mean, there's so many people that have laid the groundwork and put the time in, like yourself. I mean, you've been shooting and made all the mistakes. You've put the time in to figure everything out as best you can, and then you're willing to share that information to someone who's like me, who doesn't know anything. And I've been able to just ride the backs of all your guys' hard work. And I know I have an advantage. I know that I'm very blessed in that. And I really don't want to take that for granted. Um, Guys like Tim Vaught, uh, Norm, Harold, I mean, they've all shared nuggets of information. It's been amazing, and I've tried to store all that and apply that, their hard work, and so the rise or whatever you want to call this experience, it's really on the work of others, and I've just been a part of it, you know.
Well,
So
you need to give
it's
yourself a little
been
more credit, my friend, because
well,
you've done with that information what a lot of people haven't been able to do. Okay, so that's your competitive spirit and your mental toughness. Obviously, I mean the things that you're going through and still show up to matches and win. You know what I mean? So let's get back into how did you end up going to nationals? Because that's where I met you.
sure. I mean, again, so at that
That
match at
was
Rattlesnake,
21,
yeah,
right?
21,
Uh huh.
summer of 21. Um, Todd introduced himself at that Rattlesnake match,
Mm-hmm.
invited me to shoot Machias, which is a 500-yard range that we have here in our area.
Mm-hmm.
And I shot really well there at 500 yards. He brought a rifle and gun or bullets and everything. And it was, I don't know, on the way home or another day later, he's like, "Hey, Nationals is coming up in Indiana." And I don't even know what that is. And he says, "Why don't you come?" He says, "I'll bring a rifle and ammo if you can just get yourself there." And so I called my wife and I said, this is unbelievable. I don't know what's happening. And he's invited me to come to this thing. And this is like a national championship where there's, you know, teams and shooters from all over to come and compete for the championship. And, you know, out of I hadn't even shot a real match yet. I shot a 500-yard match.
Mm-hmm.
And so, long story short, he's like, would you want to shoot for a team match? And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And he's like, well, let me call somebody and I'll get back to you on that. And he said, why don't one of the guys wants to sub out for like the 600-yard match. So why don't you prepare yourself to, come shoot that and experience that? And I'm like, okay. So, we showed up in Indiana. Um, that was amazing. Flying with guns, that whole experience. And luckily, Todd was there to kind of guide and walk me through it all. And then we showed up at some army base in Indianapolis there or whatever it was, and I
Indiana.
was blown away.
Yeah.
100 targets was amazing, and I couldn't believe how many people were there. And then, you know, here's all these guys wearing Lapush, and Todd brought an extra one for me with his name on it. So I wore that, and he introduced me to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know really who you were, and you know, I really didn't know who David was. I didn't know Bob or, you know, and you guys just opened up like I was one of the guys and brought me right in and made me feel welcome. And, Pauline was there, the team mom, and she took me under her wing too. And Jeremy was there. And it was an amazing experience to shoot team. And I didn't realize how amazing it was. Hindsight, Team Lapua, I didn't realize was the team, and to, represent and be part of that. And, you know, it was an amazing thing. And then to shoot nationals, I brought a spotting scope. I didn't even know what a spotting scope was. Couldn't even set the spotting scope up. And I remember I would pair with Tim Vaught,
Mm-hmm.
and he was helping me set up my gun, my rest, helping me out, giving me nuggets of, hey, do this, do that. And I got to shoot with Norm Harold, and
Mm-hmm.
he was helping me out and giving me information. And it was just amazing. And then to go in the pits and meet people there, and oh, it was hot, humid, but unbelievable experience. Couldn't believe it. And I shot okay, nothing spectacular, but I was trying to look at a mirage. And I didn't know what that even was, and it just confused me when I looked at it. And but it's just been a ride ever since then.
So you shoot with us at the 600, uh, and you did pretty well. Uh, I assume Todd had been kind of making you pull the trigger or something, or was that just you showing up
Yeah,
cold turkey?
that was cold turkey. I mean, I shot that 500-yard match,
Mm-hmm.
um, and 600 was very similar, I guess, but never had anybody tell me where to hold, which took a lot of the stress out of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just make a good shot, um, and then to try to go shoot individuals was very interesting because I'd never really shot a complete match at 1,000 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And here I'm trying to look at flags. I'm trying to see mirage, but I can't see it. I don't know how to see it. And if I did see it, I didn't know what it meant, and then listening to information Tim might say in between a match or relay or whatever and say, hey, look at this, look at that. And when I see this, I do this. And trying to just to stockpile those nuggets of information. And I still use some of those things today, what he told me in my very first match. And so, and everybody's just you know been helping. I remember shooting next to David Christian one relay,
Mm-hmm.
and I was struggling with shooting downwind. And he's like, hey, ever thought of moving wind? And I'm like, what does that even mean? He said, well, now you've given yourself, instead of 5 inches, now you give yourself 10 inches.
What did he
you know
say to you?
well, my if I recall, my shots were all downwind.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hitting downwind nines. He
Mm-hmm.
says, why don't you move, you know 2, 3 rings to your left. That way you have a lot more real estate to aim in. And I didn't, because all my shots were downwind. I was playing in that 9-10 downwind instead of going upwind and letting it
Mm-hmm.
come down. And I had more room.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even think of that. You know, that was just a great piece of information to move,
Mm-hmm.
much greater than the half minute or the half, line I was moving.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there was, the old, more or less the same, right, from you. And so that was told to me on day one, and that's what I use.
Go ahead. Go ahead and tell people what the more or less the same is.
More or less the same. For me, it's in regards to whether you're looking at flags, mirage, or both. When you have a condition and you shoot in it, you're going to use that information as the next shot. But is it more or less the same in regards to is the condition that you just shot in, the flag direction, the speed, the mirage, is it more? Then you need to hold more. Is it the same? Maybe the same hold, or is it less? Maybe you need to come in. So that's kind of how I look at condition is my shot goes, then I'm either in my spotting scope, looking at the condition, looking at the mirage. Is the mirage more or less the same as I just shot? Is the flags that I'm evaluating, are they more or less the same? Whether angle or velocity, yes, it's the same. Okay. I'm going to use the same hold, or no, it's more. Okay, well, and then you got to determine from there how much more or how much less. But that's what I always start with between each shot, more or less the same.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't do that, I've got myself into water. And the more I do that, which is not much been much more consistent now, it's a good starting point.
It's such a simple thing.
That's a good teacher, right? That's a good teacher because you took a very complicated thing and broke it down into a simple concept that was easy for someone who didn't know anything about shooting to understand, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
It's
a perfect example.
that advice I've given to not many people. Now it's out there, but
It's something, yeah,
um, I remember it was at 600 yards, Indiana. I think that's when we went up to the line, and I told you,
yep,
I kind of explained to you, just kind of give you the cliff notes, and then I said, Here's the bottom line: it's more or
yeah,
less are the same. That's all you got to worry about. Just ask yourself that every shot, and you'll be fine." And I use it to this day, and sounds like you still use it.
yes,
It's it's a very simple thing to ask yourself because, as you know, back to what we were talking about earlier, there's so much going on in your brain that you gotta just narrow it down.
yeah,
It just more or
good
less are the
point.
same, and kind of start working from there. So, you shoot Indiana. Uh, I didn't know how long you've been shooting when I met you, because I mean I knew you were kind of fresh to the sport, but I really didn't know, because you look frustrated with your score. And I thought, well, there's no way he's new because he's already frustrated. If he was a new guy, he would understand that, okay, well, whatever. But I just assume you've been doing it for a while because of, but that's just your competitive self being
Right.
upset because you just want to do better.
Yeah.
So, and it just so happens that Todd won the nationals there
Yes.
that year.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So what was that
Yeah.
like? Like this guy just that you met a few
Well,
months before, and all of a sudden he brings you out, and this guy wins the freaking nationals.
I know. I mean, you know, Todd. Todd is a phenomenal shooter,
Hmm.
but Todd's even a better person. Um, I call him the champ
Hmm.
because to me, he is the champ in the sense of he's the type of guy that, I told him that I would like to hook my wagon to, you know.
Hmm.
He's humble. Um, he's a great example of what a leader is. He leads by example. Um, the work ethic, the time, the effort that he puts in
Hmm.
behind the scenes. Um, that's what I look for. Um, I learned early on is don't reinvent the wheel. Find someone who does what you want and copy what they do. And Todd is the type of guy that I want to emulate as a shooter and as a person too. I mean, you know, he he gives his time freely. He shares things with me that he doesn't have to share about. Well, just not only just about shooting, but life too. We've become, I think, pretty good friends,
Mm-hmm.
and he's taken on the role as a mentor. Um, and what a great mentor that he is for me and an ambassador for the sport. I really believe that, and I am so blessed that you know he reached out and made that offer to me. Um, that just shows the type of person that he's willing to share
Mm-hmm.
um, all his hard work, inside information, if you want to call it, things that he does and how he prepares, how
Mm-hmm.
he tests, how much time he puts into his mental game. You know, that's where I think all athletes separate themselves is in their mental game.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a phenomenal mental game. And to talk about the match and things like that over the time and our travel there, and then to watch him shoot so well at nationals and then to win it.
Mm-hmm.
I was, and then to hear how many times he's been close, you know, to being there in the top, and to just see him do that right there
Mm-hmm.
on that stage,
Mm-hmm.
that was amazing,
Yeah,
and
that was a fun time. Uh, yeah. Then we celebrated.
yep,
I had for some reason for some reason. Okay, this was in Indiana. I think in Phoenix. We stayed at the house,
yep,
and there was a bottle of vodka or something. Was it vodka? I don't know.
I don't know.
The point is, Todd said, "Here, take that with you," and I took it because I drove right to
Oh,
Phoenix, and then
that's
we
right, yeah.
go to Indiana, and I brought it with me. And so we're sitting around. Of course, Todd wins. We're celebrating, whatever. And I open my eyes just. I'm like, "Who wants some of this?" And Todd's like, "Oh yeah!" And of course, we didn't have cups, so I just cut a bunch of water bottles in
Oh, that's
half.
right.
Remember that? And
Yeah,
that's how we celebrated, just in the back of the truck, tailgating in a way. But
you know,
that was good stuff, man. I'm so happy for
it's
him.
what's so cool about the sport too is that we all want to win, we all want to do well, but we're all still rooting for everyone else as well. And how everybody's kind of, the team all kind of rally around Todd, and not just the guys from Team LaPoo, but everybody was excited for him. And it was genuine,
Hmm.
you know. That's that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. It's a pretty tight knit group. F class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a lot of great people. Uh, so now let's talk about your success, because now you're acting like you still can't shoot, which is not true. so so you shoot, you show up and you shoot there, and of course it's you're kind of frustrated, and just because you just want to do better, you leave there, whatever. Todd wins, and at some point you decide to go down to California and shoot the long range. How did that come about?
So, well, after Indiana, kind of got the bug to want to shoot a little bit more. I can't remember what month that was. I don't know if it was July.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was, I know there was an event like, I think at Rattlesnake or something like that. Then there was, hey, we have this trip to Montana. Let's go shoot Montana.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, any place I can go to shoot, I wanted to try to go. And that was an amazing trip
Mm-hmm.
shooting Montana. And it was Montana where things turned the corner for me. Um, we had a team match there, did okay there. And I remember, you know, that condition, that that place, everybody was shooting, I think Jeremy shot like 18x or, some ridiculous score
19,
there.
19.
19x, yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Norm shot good. Everybody was shooting really good, and I was struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the shooting okay, but struggling. And I was pretty frustrated. Like, man, maybe the sport isn't for me because I'm just not getting it. I don't understand what I'm missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was got paired up with Chris Few
Mm-hmm.
and Jason Symes and another two unbelievable, great guys, great
Mm-hmm.
shooters, and they were just helping me out again with what's going on, and hey, maybe you should slow down, you're going too fast. So there was all these little nuggets they were giving me, and I remember I was watching Jason Symes shoot, and I'm like, what is he doing that I'm not doing? Because he was shooting lights out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just remember I took my spotting scope and I found the Mirage. I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch the Mirage and then watch him shoot and see if I can call where the shot's going to go, thinking this is where I would hold. And the first few shots, I wasn't even close. And I'm like, I don't get it. And so I was talking to Jason, and he said, I said, what are you looking at out there? Because I can't figure what I'm shooting in. And he talked about there being more than one Mirage out there. And I'm like, what do you mean there's more than one Mirage? He's like, oh, there's different Mirages along the way. You got to find which one has the greatest value. And it was like, what? I had never heard that. So I watched him on his next relay, and I found the Mirage he was shooting in. And it was like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. And I shot my first clean after that, right
Wow.
at the next stage. And I was like, oh my gosh,
I can do this.
I can do this. And I shot like a 199 the next relay. And I ended on such a great note, and things just kind of came together there at the end. And I was like, okay, I can maybe start to figure this out and not just guess every time. And I think the next match was the Washington State Regional.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to that and I won that.
Wow.
And it was unbelievable. Um, Not expecting that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys were so happy for me. Jeremy was there, John was there, a couple of the guys were there that I was shooting against. Um, it was just amazing. And then they were like, what I'm like, okay, that was so awesome. What's next? What else is out there? We're at the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I heard somebody think or heard John Masick say, hey, there, something about Kalinga. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is, but I'm Googling it when I get home. And it was a California State Championship
Mm-hmm.
in Kalinga. And I'm Googling that. I'm like, hey, babe, maybe I can go to that. And she's like,
You
okay.
told John that?
No, I didn't tell John that.
Oh, your
No,
wife.
yeah, I told my wife that.
My bad. Sorry.
And yeah, so I was telling Chris Few, I said, yeah, I think I'm going to go to Kalinga. I think it's like the last match. And he's like, oh, this is John Masick and Jason are going down. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'll know somebody down there.
Yeah.
And went down there, and I got hooked up with them, just hanging out. And what a great, got to know John and Jason so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And great group of guys, so helpful too. And I shot down there for California State Championship and came home with the Golden Bear, and it was
That's awesome.
amazing, right?
So you had this winning streak. So you got Washington, then you went down to
Yep,
California.
Washington, California, yeah.
Wow, man.
And
That's
then
awesome.
after that, we had that team event in November.
Well, that's right.
At
Then you went back to Phoenix
Yeah,
and we shot the
and
team, just a team match.
just a
Yeah, yeah.
team event, and we just shot lights out. High X count, gun was shooting phenomenal. It was just a phenomenal way to end the season. And I think it was at that point there in Phoenix that I got invited onto the team.
So you had wow. So you pretty much after uh, what do they call it? That match where it's dead calm. Where you said everybody was shooting well.
But not Dead Zero.
Montana, right?
Yeah, Montana.
Anyway,
Uh,
Deep
yeah.
Creek.
Deep Creek, yes, that's it.
So after Deep Creek, you kind of it clicks,
It starts to click, yes.
and then you start winning everything. You won
Well,
Washington, California, and then you go to
yep,
Phoenix, and you win.
yeah,
As part of the team, we end up winning
team, yes.
the team event. So pretty much, you didn't lose at anything except cornhole. That because we put a hurting on you pretty bad. But anyway, um,
That's what I'm most disturbed about.
all those wins meant nothing.
Mm,
Uh, wow. So you gotta be on a pretty good ride. I mean, because you just been winning.
yeah, amazing ride. And
Now,
like I said, it's
we didn't clarify, but you are no longer shooting the 6.5 Creedmoor by this point, right?
correct.
You're shooting a 284.
Yeah, 284, Lapua brass, Burger 180s, X-ring stock,
So
tallest scope,
The Todd Hendricks special.
the Todd Hendricks setup. Yes.
Yeah. That's a good setup.
Yeah.
So okay, and then in Phoenix is when we officially ask you. This is at the team event. Officially ask you to join
Yes.
the team because, you were not part of the team. You were just kind of a honorary
I was
member.
substitute.
Yeah. So you finally joined the team. Remember,
And I have to say that was for me an amazing morning. That was unexpected, um, a privilege and an honor to be. I'm a team guy.
hmm
It was an amazing opportunity, amazing offer, and it just capped. It's a highlight of this journey. Is I love the individual stuff, but man, I'm a team guy, and to be part of a team, the caliber of people that I'm on with, it's. I mean, I'm in. It's just I just don't know how to describe it. It was an amazing offer.
I th-
So thank you for that, and Jeremy and
well,
Todd and
you're
Dave,
welcome.
all those guys that were
When I asked you to
contributed.
join the team, I was worried you were going to say, "Hell no." After you got to know us, I thought you were going to be like, "Hell no." No. Honestly, it was fun. It was. I mean, you earned it. I mean, we didn't hand anything to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, we were providing information to you that I would provide to just anybody. So many people know this. They all ask me a question. I say, here you go. Here's that information. Do what you may with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And most people do nothing with it, and some people really take it and become super successful. You know what I mean? Uh, and I think obviously the key is you got to put in the work, and you just got to have this ultra focus like you have, and then just put your head down and plow through it. Which is what
Yeah.
you have done. So you won the Grizzly Bear in California. You come over to Phoenix. We won another championship there. So now what is that? 3 championships in 1 year?
Yeah.
That's most people haven't had one ever, and you had 3. That's pretty
Yeah.
impressive, if I may say so myself.
Well, I didn't do it by myself. I can tell you that.
But you did a lot of it, I like I said, yeah, we help you and others have helped you, but you still got to put in the work, and you still got to be mentally strong enough to. I remember when I was starting out, I was doing really well. I was shooting well, and I had a really good mentor, just like you have, Todd. I had Mike Downey, and just I was doing really well. But man, I would totally crumble when I was doing well, and I remember I was in Ireland and I was shooting well, and that's when I finally got to meet all these you know uh, Jim Murphy and Larry Bartholomew and all these people, John Brewer, just all these legends, right? And I'm doing pretty good. And then Jim Murphy, I remember Jim Murphy. I was in the pits, and he goes, "Man, you're shooting so good. Keep it up." That's probably the worst thing he could have told me, because all of a sudden I'm shooting for them, not for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I was just so nervous after he told me that, because I'm like, I can't believe these guys are coming up to me and talking about how good I'm doing. I didn't do bad, but I didn't do as good as I had hoped. But you know, I used to crumble under the pressure of being next to legends. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's you've done really well, and that just goes back to your your just your experience playing with high level sports.
Sure. Yeah, there's something to that.
So now you're 3-time champion, and you how's the ride been since then? I mean you can't win everything.
No, well, there's been some mental changes. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, a part I struggled with for quite a while there after being part of the team was it was such a privilege to be asked to be part of the team
Mm-hmm.
that I felt at times where I needed to perform well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I added additional pressure to myself to go out and perform, not so that I show that let me back up. I wanted to show that I deserved to be there,
Mm-hmm.
that I earned to be there, and not just, well, hey, if I had that set up, I could shoot like that too. Um, because I knew that, you know, I was playing with, very good equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I had an advantage, that I wanted to make Todd proud of, of shooting well, and I wanted to make the team proud that I was shooting well, that I deserved to be there, and it wasn't just, oh well, it's all because of this, and this, that he actually deserves to be there. And that honestly played into a few things over the next few matches, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just added pressure that I put on myself for that, and I think it got me out of my game a little bit. Um, so I was always like starting off in a hole because I just felt like I needed to do so well in the very beginning, and um, I would finish well, but I didn't start well, and I had to just over the next couple matches reassess what am I doing. You know, I'm putting myself in a hole, and it's all because of decisions I'm making and the extra stress that I'm putting on myself. So let's step back, reevaluate what I'm doing, and I think I did pretty good the last couple matches with that. Um, had some equipment malfunctions at V2, or not at V2, but at England.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and but I finished really well. I went
Mm-hmm.
back to the drawing board there and just said, okay, let's get back to the basics and you know focus on each shot, not worry about what anybody else is doing.
Right.
And I finished well there, and then I just finished well the last couple matches. Yeah, even this last nationals, I struggled in the beginning, and I came back and finished really, really strong with some really great calls,
Mm-hmm.
bold calls, and some really hard conditions there, and felt okay, I got it. And then it just culminated here a couple weeks ago at California again. I just went in with a different mindset, and it just all came together.
So you won it
So
again, back to back,
yeah, won it again.
second
Yeah.
Grizzly. So, man, the reason I asked you, like, what's happened after that, because you can't win everything, because it's true, you can't win everything, and you just have to learn how to deal with it. Um,
Uh,
it, it, I think one of the hardest things that we do as shooters is I don't want to say learn to lose, but be okay with losing, and just acknowledge that's just a step on the road to winning, right? Just because
Yeah.
you lose a match doesn't make you a loser. It just makes you not a winner that day, you know. And a
What
lot of
was it?
people,
What was it that you said to me in England there? It's either you win or you're learning a lesson
oh
or
yeah. So
something along those lines.
two things. There's only two outcomes,
Right.
right? That's it. It's either it's either a lesson or a reward,
There you go. Yeah.
right? And that's it. Like every shot, it's either lesson or reward. There's
Yeah.
no bad shots. There's no negatives, right? Uh, did you learn something? Well, and you did. Like you talked about those matches that you lost, right? And then did you learn something? Well, yeah, you learned that you were putting too much pressure on yourself, and you changed that. So were those matches bad matches? No, they were just lessons, right? And it kind of got you back in your head game, which you already know, but it just you get taken out of it, right? Because all the pressure
Mhm.
and all the added pressure mainly. I think most people, and Lanny Basham, I'm a big follower of his. He talks about people that try too hard. It's bad for you. It's bad for the
Yeah.
sport.
Yeah.
It's bad for your scores. It's bad for everything. If you try too hard, it's bad.
Yeah.
Uh, but he talks about it's either a lesson or a reward, and neither of those two outcomes is bad, right?
Right.
Which is
That's great.
precisely what you proven to yourself. You know what I mean? 'Cause that's the big thing. You got to prove it to yourself. If you're okay with your performance, that's kind of what I was saying earlier. The score doesn't reflect my performance. You know, uh, you guys asked me how did you shoot? Well, I shot great. That's
Yeah.
my answer because I did. You know what I mean? I go in with a plan and I execute. Sometimes I got to pivot mid match because that plan is not working. I pivot, and all of a sudden, I may finish strong. I may drop 3, 4, 5 points at the beginning. There's this match that we recorded. John had a friend who was recording. He caught me shooting. He recorded my entire match, and I started with 3 9s. Okay, and then I said, okay, because I decided I'm gonna run, and it didn't work. 3 9s in a row. I'm like, okay, stop. So I stopped, and then I said, okay, next time it comes back, I'm gonna run. And I jumped in, with a 10,
Nice.
and I'm like, the wind came back and everything, and I'm like, boom, I jump in with a 10, and I start running, and again I start dropping, but I was dropping them down, upwind. I was
Okay.
so. Long story short, I dropped, and I was dropping some vertical shots, but the point is, I decided, okay, this plan is not working. I'm just gonna have to jump in and jump out, jump in. So that's what I did, and it worked every time. I jumped in, Ted, 3 or 4, no, like 4 or 5 times. I jumped in, 2, 3 shots, jump out,
Wow.
and every time I jumped in with a 10 or an X. Every time.
Nice.
Okay, so I dropped 7 shots on that match. But man, was I excited about how I shot, because I'm like, that is some good
Yeah.
shooting right there. You know what I mean? But if
Yeah.
somebody just asked me how'd you do, well, 7 shots. They're like, oh, he stunk it up.
Yeah.
No, man, I shot great. Like I shot amazing. But the
But
score doesn't reflect that.
yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point. I think a strength of mine is I don't remember really my nines.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's an eight, I'll remember.
Yeah.
but it's like, okay, I shot a nine, and what I remember is the good calls. Hey, I moved not just one ring, I went bold, I moved 2 rings. Or, I waited 10 minutes and I jumped in and I hit a 10, or an X. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that's a great call. And that's what I try to focus on, because that's what builds. positive reaffirmation, right?
Right.
And I don't always remember what I did to get the 9, but I remember, hey, I jumped in 5 right after 8 minutes and hit a 10, and I'm just like, that's why I do this, because that's feels so good, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And that builds the confidence in it. Yeah.
like the Larry Tate story where he just wants to call ceasefire so everybody can look at his shot, right? Like everybody ceasefire, ceasefire. Look at what I just did.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes you almost want to do that because it's so fun, right?
Yep.
But yeah, like I said, I dropped seven points on that one match, and I was like, man, I was so pumped because I pivoted mid match, and I said, okay, just jump on and off, and it
Sure.
worked perfect. I was so happy, but it's just part of it, man. You can't win everything, and
Mhm.
you've done enough winning that you will understand this. You're gonna agree with me that when you win, it doesn't seem like it was that hard, right?
Mhm.
Right? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
like, man, how did you do that? Like, it wasn't that hard. It's because you were on, right? You were seeing everything. Everything was just working. You jump in mid match, and like you said, you hold left 5 and you hit a 10. How many times have you done that and you hit a freaking 8?
Right.
And it's just not, you're not seeing it. Things are not going your way. How many times have you won a match where you caught a ton of liner 10s?
Right.
And how many times have you lost a match when you caught a ton of liner 9s, right? It's literally that much that decides whether you hit a 10 or a 9. And it's just some days you just on that you're catching liner 10s, and some days you're catching liner 9s. And it's
Yeah.
just part of it. Uh, it's just part of the game. And you can't beat yourself up. It's just a process, it's a lesson. Lesson learned. Thank you. Good job. Congratulate the winners. Be happy for them because it's their time. And then one day it's going to be yours. And that's all there is to it. You're just one match closer to that day,
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, well, Ted, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for doing this interview.
Oh,
Uh,
thanks for having me on.
it's
It's a privilege.
it's a great story, and man, you've really come a long way. Like you've been shooting for a little over a year, and you already have, I don't know, tons of championships under your belt. That's impressive. Uh,
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
anyway, uh, thank you. And what's your next match? What is the next one?
Southwest.
Southwest.
Yep.
Southwest. What's your goal? Like, which is there a match that you say that's the one that I want to win?
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. I want to win Southwest, and then I want to win V2.
Oh, V2
Um,
is.
yeah, that's right. Right.
Uh,
Especially after getting knocked out on V1. You know, I went into that with so much confidence. I'll have to be honest with you. I had just came from Texas,
yeah. Well, you
shot
got what, fourth place?
third,
The
third,
third place in Texas.
third place
That's
in
a tough
Texas. Yeah.
match.
Uh, Came out a lot of confidence there. Gun was shooting great. Practiced with Todd. Shot well with Todd. I'm like, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, I recorded the practice match, and
Yeah,
you
I
beat
felt
Todd.
great. And just like you said, wasn't my day.
Well,
So I
who?
really want to get back to there.
Yeah, V squared. What? Who did you shoot against the first time?
Uh, he's on. He's from Bayou there. Older gentleman. Shoot.
Oh, Woody.
One was
Woody.
Woody. Yes, yes, Woody. And then I shot against Corey Bazell. Two
Oh,
great
Corey.
guys.
Texans. The Texans
Yeah.
took you out.
And yeah, what was so cool about shooting the V2 was not only just it's amazing setup in the sense of it seemed like every shot was so stressful. It was so intense, you know. I loved it. Um and then just to have the camaraderie with those guys and learned a little bit about them and sharing stories, and it was such a great event, and I would
Hmm.
recommend if anyone gets a chance to go to that, you shouldn't pass it up because it's an experience there. I mean, it's an amazing event that you guys put on. Yeah, bar none. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to go and win that, right? And then I want to be able to, Lord willing, qualify for U.S. team, shoot a worlds as a team representative at some point. I mean, those are all goals,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and something I would strive for, and hope to attain. If I don't, I don't. But those are at least, something that I look forward to and want to be at that point, get to that level if I can.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sure you can do it, buddy. You're
yeah.
a good shooter. All right, Ted. Again, thank you.
All right.
Uh,
No,
Before
thank
we
you.
go, I keep forgetting to do this, but you got to nominate somebody. Who do I need to talk to?
Uh, Great guy. He's the new national champion, Timmy Bott.
Timmy Vaught. Man, I've been
I
trying to
think
get that guy. I'm gonna have to get my people to talk to his people. That guy is
I,
just hard to get a hold
what
of.
a great guy to start with. He'll be another great champion. Just he's got phenomenal. He's a phenomenal storyteller too, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Oh,
but
the SEAL Team 6 story is amazing.
but watching him shoot this last competition there at nationals, I was spotting and I was watching him shoot, and just the patience, picking his way through some of those relays
Hmm.
and shot, phenomenal. I think he definitely put the time and work into it,
Hmm.
and he just has a lot of insight, I think, and man, he's a great guy too. So
Yeah.
I think that's who I would nominate.
Okay, Timmy Vaught. Right, Tim. You can't
Yeah,
you can't keep running away. I've been trying to get him
yeah,
on. He's busy. I get it. He's busy, but
I
we'll get
know.
him on. We'll get him on. I think I agree with you. I think he has so much to offer, and he's another one that's come up pretty quick. And I mean, he's a national champion.
Yeah,
He's doing extremely well. But yeah, we'll get Tim on. All right, man.
cool.
Thank
All
you.
right, we'll catch you
All
later.
right, man. Take
Thanks,
care.
Eric.
Bye bye.
Bye.